right, everyone, and welcome to another episode of our Q&A session with our Citizen Remote Legal team. We are here and joined today with Petra Virmova. I'm really excited to dive in, Petra, to talk about Czech, because as we're kind of talking right before this, the Czech Republic isn't a very well-known digital nomad destination, but it does have a digital nomad visa. So hopefully we can kind of bring awareness to what that process looks like and how people can not only utilize Citizen Remote services to apply with you, but, obtain that digital nomad visa in the end of the day. So, Petra, thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. Pleasure.
Yeah. So, again, really excited to kind of start us off. Typically, it helps to just start off by what are typical visa types. I know that we're going to kind of dive into the details of the digital nomad visa specifically, but if you're a remote worker, small business owner, maybe you can kind of just highlight what some of those main visa categories are.
Mm-hmm. So the most important or the most common visa types are, of course, employee cards and blue cards. This is the most common residency permit types we deal with on a daily basis. Then, of course, we have the student visas. We also have business visas. This is for the small owner businesses. And then we have the digital nomads. And we also have family members, which anyone who is coming into the Czech Republic and who is moving the family with, the family is also allowed to apply for the long-term visa or residency permit.
Okay. And so maybe just to highlight the digital nomad visa, we can kind of start off there. The main question is, how long is it awarded? Some visas are 6 months, some are 12 months. How long is the digital nomad visa specifically awarded?
So the digital nomad visa, the first year that when you are applying for the visa, it can be granted for up to 1 year. 1 year is the maximum period. Sometimes it can be shortened, for example, by providing a short lease agreement. But basically 1 year is the maximum. After a year living in the Czech Republic, you can apply for a residency permit, and this residency permit can be issued for up to 2 years.
Oh, wow. So an additional 2 years, or just that 2 years total?
There is no limit. It's not limited for how long you can stay in the Czech Republic as a digital nomad. It's just that the scenario we have with the visas in the Czech Republic is that the first visa, and it's a visa sticker in your passport, is issued for 1 year. And then when you are extending this visa, you receive basically a residency permit. It's a plastic card. And this can be issued for up to 2 years. And then you can again extend it for another 2 years. And when you reach 5 years, you can apply for permanent residency.
Okay, wonderful. And are you aware if there is a pathway to dual citizenship? I know 5 years is permanent residency, which gives you some extra years as well, but is there a pathway to dual citizenship with this visa?
This is after 5 years, when you pass the A2 level of the Czech exam, you can apply for permanent residency. And after 5 years of having permanent residency, you can apply for citizenship. In Czech Republic, you have to have 10 years in the Czech Republic to apply for citizenship. And I think since 2018, I believe, we are accepting dual citizenship. So when you want to apply for a Czech citizenship, you don't have to give up your original citizenship.
Wow. So that's exciting for everyone who's interested in, becoming a dual citizen in Europe and Czech specifically. Okay, well, wonderful. And then, another main thing people always ask is if they're eligible. I know that the Czech visa is kind of restricted a little bit in terms of the nationalities that can apply. Maybe you can kind of just walk us through what nationalities are eligible to apply.
This is correct. The digital nomad visa is only for certain citizenships, and these are Australia, New Zealand, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, United Kingdom, US, Canada, and I think that's it. So passport holders of these states, they can apply for the digital nomad visas. The other ones, they basically have to use a different route how to get a residency permit in the Czech Republic.
Okay, and that would probably roll back to some of those visa categories that you said at the beginning, and we can obviously assist with all those as well. Is that correct?
Yeah. Employee card or blue card are basically the easiest way how to obtain a residency in the Czech Republic, because it's really straightforward. You don't have to provide that many documents. You have to have an employer and you have to have a guaranteed income. But it's really straightforward and easy to obtain. Where if you want to be a digital nomad, it's a bit easier. You have to provide that you have enough savings, for example, and that you can support yourself in the Czech Republic while you are living here.
Okay. And then speaking of those savings, maybe you can just quickly highlight like what those minimum requirements are. I know maybe you said something about 8,000 euros a year,
Correct.
but like, is there a minimum monthly or?
It's not monthly. When you are applying for the visa, you have to provide bank statement confirmation, which will prove that for an adult person, you need 8,000 euros. This is the minimum per year that you have to have on your account. If you have a family, for example, wife, then you have to provide another 8,000 for her, and usually 4,000 for the kid, which is under 14 or 15 years old. So basically, it depends how big your family is. If you are single, you are good just with 8,000 euros. If you have a family, then you just need to add all this up.
Okay, so that's kind of unique. So with the Czech digital nomad visa, it's not a monthly income that you necessarily need. It's just proving that you have enough savings for that initial visa.
There are actually two subcategories to the digital nomad visa. One is you are employed by a foreign company which doesn't have an office in the Czech Republic, and you can work remotely for this company. In this case, you need to provide the employment contract, and based on that, the government will see that you have some income coming monthly onto your bank account. Plus, you need to provide the bank statement with the minimums that are required, and you are good applying for the digital nomad visa. Or you can apply as a freelancer. And in this case, you have to get a trade license and you have to prove that you have the funds on your account. When you're applying for the first time, the bank statement can be issued by your foreign bank. But when you are extending the visa in the Czech Republic, you already have to have a Czech bank account.
Okay. And then I'm assuming that once you get that visa stamp for that initial 12-month period, you're able to get things like a bank account set up and, SIM cards and all that stuff.
Yes.
Perfect.
It's tightening also in the Czech Republic. Now, it's not like it used to be a few years ago that you could anyone could open a bank account in the Czech Republic. You really have to have some kind of a residency or long-term visa to be able to open the bank account. And the Czech authorities are aware of this. And that's why for the first application, they are fine when you are providing your foreign bank account.
Okay. Well, that's very helpful. And then, in turnaround times of kind of that length in which you submit that application to kind of getting an answer, do you know how long that typically takes?
Well, for the long-term visa, the general deadlines are 90 days. But if you are going as a digital nomad, you have to go through a special program, which is actually sheltered or governed by the Ministry of Trade. And in this case, it can be 2 to 4 weeks. So it's not only that you have some special type of residency, your application is also treated in a express way, I would say.
Wow. So that's really good. So if you're wanting to kind of relocate to Europe quickly, it sounds like this might be a good visa category for you.
I think
2 to 4 weeks is the quickest turnaround time I'm aware of.
Correct. I think the Czech authorities just finally got the point that if they want to attract people, they really have to do something for this. And having this program, this is a really plus.
Yeah, absolutely. And then for people who have families, obviously a big question is, can they bring dependents? Is that allowed on the digital nomad visa specifically?
Yes, they can also bring the family. They will all be submitting the applications together. I'm not sure if I have mentioned it, but the first application, it always has to be submitted at the Czech embassy outside of the Czech Republic. So all these citizens, they can also submit their applications not only in the home country, but they can choose an embassy where they want to submit the application. So for example, if they are living in Thailand, they can submit their applications in Thailand. That's possible for them. And so the whole family can submit the applications together, and they are also processed together. So the approval for the head of the family comes first, and usually within 1 or 2 days, we receive the approval for the family.
Okay. And that's kind of good to know, is that people who may be already over in Europe, they can't apply for the digital nomad visa in the Czech Republic, correct?
They cannot apply in the Czech Republic, but for Europe, for the Schengen zone, we have a so-called visa center. And this visa center is located in Dresden, in Germany, which is only 2 hours drive from Czech Republic. And this is where you can apply for the visa in Europe. This is the only place in Europe, basically.
Okay. Well, that's kind of a good workaround, I guess, to the fact that if you are already over here, there are still pathways to apply in the Czech Republic or in Europe without having to go home.
Yeah, true. You just have to make sure you don't overstay your Schengen allowance, which is 90 days within 180 days. So if you want to be applying in Germany, it's good to plan things ahead, have the application prepared, and have an appointment booked before you come. So the moment you arrive to Europe, you go within the first 2 weeks to Dresden, submit your application, and then receive the approval and the visa within those 90 days that you are allowed to stay here as a tourist.
Okay, because that's another question that usually arises, is if they've applied for the visa, they're not allowed to stay past the 90 if it hasn't been approved yet. So if they're like applying at day 80, they might not get the result in time. Is that correct?
This is correct, yes. You still have to, submitting the application doesn't give you a right to reside in the Czech Republic and to wait for the decision. So if you, for example, apply on day 85, you still have to leave the Schengen zone. You need to leave like 88 days. So you have 2 days to come back and collect the visa. So everything should, if you want to go this direction, you have to really plan things in advance.
Okay, and that's good to know. And then I guess another question that kind of comes up when you're talking about relocating, is there a stay requirement for renting accommodation with getting this visa? Like, do you have to provide proof of accommodation, or is that something that you do after you've gotten the visa?
Actually, you have to provide that you already have a place secure to stay. Confirmation of accommodation or lease agreement is part of the application for the visa. So you already have to have a place, or what we can provide. We call this so-called virtual accommodation. It's just a confirmation that you have a place to stay, which we can use for the visa purposes.
Okay, is that like a few months, or is it for the whole year, or does that not?
It's for the whole year. It's for the whole year.
So
and
also
when
very
you receive
important.
Your visa, and when you receive your visa, you just need to change your address to the real address where you live, because obviously if you live somewhere, you want to receive the correspondence from the government authorities, and you don't want this correspondence to go to some virtual address.
Okay. Wonderful. And then this is kind of outside of the visa questions. But what's kind of the general cost of living in Czech in general? Would you consider it kind of more expensive for Europe, or less expensive, or kind of right in the middle?
It depends if you will be living in Prague or Brno, which are the 2 biggest cities. Of course, Prague is the capital. Brno is the second biggest city in the Czech Republic. Then I would say it would be similar to Vienna or Berlin. But if you will decide to live somewhere outside of Prague or Brno, then it might be 80% of the average. So really, if you have, for example, 1,300 euros a month, that should be enough for having a rent and just basic food and groceries.
Okay. Wonderful. And then I know, obviously, we're not tax experts here. We can refer you to tax experts, but that's a big question that comes up. Maybe you can kind of just quickly highlight, as generally, what they can expect when relocating on this visa type in regards to taxes.
So if you will come as a freelancer, you have to have a trade license, and that brings the obligations to be registered into the Czech healthcare and social system, and making monthly payments, which is approximately 7,500 a month, Czech crowns, which is 230 euros. And then you have to pay also taxes in the Czech Republic. This is an advantage, I would say, because if you are enrolled in a public healthcare system, you have access to the Czech healthcare system, which is quite high. It has a quite high quality, and quite often it's free of charge. you just pay some extra fees to the doctor on the spot. So I would say this would be an advantage, because if you are living in the Czech Republic, you still have to have a insurance, and purchasing a commercial insurance may be expensive, and it doesn't cover really everything. Where the public healthcare system, you will have you will have the same care as Czechs do. And if you are coming as a remote worker who works for an international company, if you stay here more than 181 days, you become eligible to pay taxes in the Czech Republic. You don't have to be enrolled in the Czech healthcare system, but you have to pay the taxes after 181 days.
Well, wonderful. So, I mean, it sounds like this is a pretty good option, because there's options to extend it indefinitely, pathway to dual citizenship, very quick turnaround time. So wonderful. Is there anything that you think that we didn't cover that you might want to make people aware of when considering the Czech Digital Nomad visa, or any other visa category for that matter?
I think we just covered most of it. This is like really general overview. If people will have any other questions, I would definitely recommend to get a consultation with us, because every single case in immigration is specific. It's not same as the previous one. So really, if any questions, I would recommend consultation with us.
Yeah, perfect. And obviously you can go through the Citizen Remote app to do that. Well, Petra, this has been very informative. And yeah, just to reiterate, when it comes to visa cases, you always want to make sure, and I'm not the lawyer here, but I'm speaking kind of in general. You always want to make sure you present the best case to the immigration office. And there's no better way to do that than somebody who deals with visas all day and every day. So definitely recommend kind of reaching out to you if this piques your interest for Czech. So wonderful. Petra, I appreciate the time.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure, really.